so Alex from Instagram says, if you move to a brand new city and you have 0 connections, but you still have an amazing portfolio to work with, how would you rebuild your clientele? And so the idea is here, you have 0 connections, and I'm assuming that your business model is similar to ours at Butler Branding. Like 90% of the work that we do is in our local area. We have clients all over the place, but the vast majority of people are in our local area. So we're not working with gigantic multi-billion-dollar companies all the time. You know, we're working primarily with really big companies, but that are central to us, and we spread a lot through word of mouth and through referral. And again, we work all over the place. People, with our YouTube channel and with our online presence, they're finding us from all over, but the vast majority of people for our business are coming from Central California. And so let's just say I moved from Fresno and I moved to some other state and I don't know anybody, right? And actually, there's a lot of people doing that. So what would I do to rebuild my business? Well, the good news is we do, like Alex says, he has a great portfolio to already work with. And so I'd first try to tap into my network and see if there's anybody that they know that they could refer. But there's also nothing really holding you back from working in other areas. And so even though you're going to a new city, doesn't mean that you have to exclusively work in that city. So you should be able to have enough runway with your current business to be able to stay a little bit busy. But if it were me, I only have one context, and that's how I started Butler. So I'd have to go back to the things that I did when I first started growing Butler to get us enough momentum to where people started reaching out. Because again, the vast majority of the clients that come to us are coming to us through word of mouth and referral. Well, how do you get that? You need clients. And so how did we get clients? The first 4 months is where I hit the ground heavy. And so you gotta be about marketing. So the good news is that you're already positioned. So if you see one of our other videos, how do you start your creative business? It's first brand positioning, then marketing, and then you go out and sell. So if you already have your portfolio, that means you're already positioned. You have the work that you do, you have your messaging, you have your portfolio. So you're already positioned. Now you have to do marketing so that you can get a seat at the table. Well, when you think of marketing, you have to think of it in 3 categories. There's inbound, outbound, and networking. So inbound, that's the one that everybody wants. It's the sexy form of marketing where people start to, they reach out to you and they initiate that conversation. It's positioning yourself to be so attractive to your target audience that they're starting that conversation. And so that's things like creating content, that's things like advertising, social media ads, linking to maybe a lead magnet, so where you're providing some sort of value and people are reaching out to you to initiate that conversation. That's something that you have to start. I recommend everybody do that, but that's really like a long game plan. When you're first starting, you're gonna need to have some pretty quick wins, and inbound marketing I think is essential, but it's not gonna get you initially those quick wins to get business right away. That's where outbound marketing comes in. Outbound marketing is where you're reaching out to your prospective target audience, your demographic that you're trying to serve, and you're initiating that conversation. That might look like door knocking, canvassing, picking up the phone and contacting people. It's not necessarily sliding into the DMs and direct messaging people on LinkedIn, though there are strategies for that. It's just never something that I've done directly. I've tried to be a little bit more creative and just reaching out directly to the people that we're trying to contact. And so when I first started Butler, this is before the days where the contact list was easily accessible on the internet. Now you can do all this stuff online, but I went to the county recorder's office and got a list of all the businesses in the area. You got their business name, the decision maker's name, and the phone number, and I started calling people. I started canvassing certain business areas and introducing myself, and that was outbound marketing. Nobody wants to do that, but for me and what we experienced as growth, it was the necessary step to get us some pretty quick wins. And so, they say if you want the results that nobody has, then do the things that most people aren't willing to do. That's one of the things that most people aren't willing to do, is initiate that conversation by calling or canvassing, door knocking, stuff like that. So inbound marketing, outbound marketing, and then the other thing that I would do, probably the most important one of the 3, is networking. Networking is where you are tapping into other people's audiences. They're serving the same type of clientele, but maybe they're complementary service providers. Maybe maybe it's trade shows, maybe it's Chamber of Commerce. It's where your demographic is congregating. Like, how do you get plugged into those networks? Well, there's usually all types of business networking events and mixers and maybe different fundraisers that your target audience can go to, and that's where you're starting to build relationships. Now, the thing where a lot of new businesses fail in networking is they think that networking is going in for the sale right then and there. When I go to networking events, I'm never trying to just promote Butler and trying to sell our services. I'm trying to expand my network of people who I could potentially serve. And again, it's also a long-term game, but you don't want to come off super salesy and memorize your elevator pitch, and so I'm going to go in for the close and try to schedule an appointment. It's really about getting to know people. And how do you get to know them? Well, you build relationships with them. And so start to have those conversations, go to those different events, and that would be probably the most important thing that I would recommend doing. I read a book called 6 Months to Six Figures from Peter Voogd, and he was asked the question, if he had $1,000 to start a business, where would he invest that $1,000? And his answer is very similar to what I would say. He said, take that $1,000, meet the 10 most influential people in your city, in your area that you want to connect with, and take them out to lunch. That's how you would invest that $1,000. Why? Because that's networking. That's expanding your network, and quickly you'll start to build momentum, and people will come to you and they'll see you as the guy or the girl who can solve whatever business problems they have. So if that's you, if you're moving from one context to another, you have a good portfolio, you're positioned well, you need to start marketing, think of marketing in those three categories: inbound, outbound, and networking. Choose a couple of things in each of those categories that you could commit to for a good 4 to 6 months, and be consistent, because consistency is the key.